time for another Over Pop. Just to point out to any of the listeners who might be American or I'm not sure what else calls it soda. I think parts of Europe call it soda. But no, obviously, in England we call it pop. Well, we just call it fizzy pop actually, we don't... That's about it. Usually just call it by its actual name rather than... Soft drinks. There we go. That's something the world can agree on, soft drinks. Yeah, they're fizzy. I've never understood soft drinks. Is it because there's no alcohol in it? Because obviously you call an alcoholic drink a hard drink. So is it soft because it doesn't have any alcohol in it? Whatever. That's a discussion for... Hell, if I ever do a food and drink one, that might be... Maybe that should be over wine. Anyway. This one is about a game series that is... Well, the game series as a whole is very old. It's a very old series of games, but the recent editions are relatively new. It's 3 games, some DLC, and I have really got into these series of games. The series being Castlevania Lords of Shadow. Starting with Castlevania Lords of Shadow, then going on to Castlevania Lords of Shadow Mirror of Fate, and then obviously Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2, with all the DLC included. Now I started playing Final Fantasy... Oh, not Final Fantasy. Sorry, I just did the Final Fantasy talk, so... Yeah. I started playing Castlevania Lords of Shadow... I think when I moved back in with my parents, which would have been March. Yeah, that was when I got it. I got it in March, because I've been waiting for it for a while. Finished it a couple of weeks whenever I got the chance to play it. Absolutely loved it. Loved every part of it. If you know me in person, you know that I am really into whip cracking, the circus art and the old combat martial art, especially the Mongolian style. And just the whip mechanics in Castlevania Lords of Shadow were incredible. I mean, I know it's a chain whip, but real whips, not really great for blunt force trauma. They're better for keeping enemies at bay. So they needed to make something up. But that was absolutely great. And then you've got the whole light magic and dark magic mechanic, and that was really fun to play with. It was really basic, but it was fun. Because obviously increased power for dark magic, healing for light magic. But no, so that was really fun. And the ending, I knew what was going to happen anyway. I mean, it's been out for a couple of years now, so everyone knows that Castlevania Lords of Shadow is about Gabriel Belmont going to save his wife, and Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 is all about Dracula. So, because they're sequels, it's kind of obvious who Gabriel and Dracula are. So, sorry if that's spoilers, but come on, it's kind of obvious. Come on, Dracula wasn't even in the first Castlevania game. Logically, with the Castlevania game, starting with the initial series, you start with Castlevania and build out. So, where was Dracula? Yeah. I'm not really saying anything new, if I'm honest. I'm not really even saying anything about the game. As far as the game goes, Castlevania Lords of Shadow was good. Wasn't anywhere near my favourite game of all time. Had some really good characters, had some really good dialogue. It was really interesting, definitely. And the plot twists were actual plot twists. They did surprise me at times. Which I haven't had in a video game in a long time, because quite frankly, most plot twists are really obvious. Castlevania Mirror of Fate. It took me a while to get into it, just because of the massive difference. Clearly, they didn't have the same kind of funding, because Castlevania Lords of Shadow went from a 3D action-adventure game that was quite reminiscent of something like God of War or Bayonetta or Prince of Persia. Especially Prince of Persia. It reminded me very much of that. Especially Prince of Persia 2 Thrones, because of the dagger tail. But where was I going with this? Yeah, but it wasn't a massively ground-shaking game, in my opinion. Wait, sorry, I was talking about Mirror of Fate. Oh god, I'm tired. Um, Mirror of Fate was a side-scroller. I mean, I've got nothing against side-scrollers, I've got nothing against side-scrolling platformers, I've got nothing against... I mean, that's what Castlevania started as, side-scrolling platformers. But to go from Castlevania Lords of Shadow being like semi-open world to platforms in a dungeon, it's just a bit too much for me. So it took a while to get into it, and I actually wound up finishing Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 before I finished Castlevania Mirror of Fate. Well, Mirror of Fate's a shorter game, so it's going easy. I just have difficulty getting my head around it because different mechanics, different combo system. Just so much. There's just too much different for me. That's all it is. But that said, then you've got Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2, which is set in like... I don't actually know when it's set. I think it's like set 2200, so like 200 years in the future. Or if now, I don't know. Still set in Wallachia, Transylvania. Wallachia? I don't know. But that's quite fun. I'm not going to tell you anything about the actual game, like the story or anything, much more than Dracula wakes up and needs to regain his powers to defeat Satan again. Oh, Zobek's back. Which does mean Patrick Stewart's back. That was something I liked in the first game as well. Patrick Stewart voicing the Lord of Death. That was really cool. I love Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart has an amazing voice. Patrick Stewart's... Well, he's on basically everyone's list for sexiest male voice of all time, alongside Morgan Freeman. These two guys have the most amazing voices. End of story. But we're not here to talk about voices. I guess this does come down as a review because Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 was one of the best games I've played in a long time. It was... The story was really engaging, the gameplay made it all come together, the characters were just... Every single character was so fleshed out, it was amazing. Even the ones that were only on screen for like 5 seconds. Oh my god, there's... Like... I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's one character who almost brought me to tears. The Toy Maker. And if anyone's played the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That character... Oh my god, that backstory for that character was just so sad. Felt so sorry for him. But it all ends okay in the end. Yeah. But aside from that, absolutely great game. Absolutely loved every second of it. And I don't want to give any spoilers, because it is a relatively new game. It only came out last year. But as far as I'm concerned, if there's one game you should play, it's definitely that. Because it is so much fun, especially if you're into dark fantasy. And if you are into dark fantasy, let's go with this. You are playing as Dracula, who used to be a servant of God, like a paladin, who fell into darkness, and can now turn into a dragon. I'm sorry, I don't care who you are, if you say playing as Dracula who can turn into a dragon is not cool, then you need to reanalyze what you think cool is. Because trust me, you're wrong. That's cool. Anyway, that is my ramble rant on Castlevania Lords of Shadow. So, see ya.